This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
The Ravens, Browns, Bengals, and Steelers all absolutely despise each other, producing some of the most vicious clashes every single year. Since 2020, the AFC North has been the only division in football where all four teams have winning records, and each team has made the playoffs at least twice in that span. And with the season right around the corner, they're all going to be backing themselves to make it back into the playoffs in 2024. And in today's video, we're going to go over the entire division and why it is such a bloodbath of a division, who has the best roster coming into the season, and at the end of the video, I'm going to give a prediction of who I think will win the AFC North. Now, starting with the Baltimore Ravens, they went all the way to the AFC Championship game last year on the backs of MVP Lamar Jackson, All-Pro linebacker Roquan Smith, and standout performers from young guys like Zay Flowers and Justin Matabuki. The problem is, though, is that they showed a lot of flaws against the Kansas City Chiefs in that AFC Championship game. And not only that, but also in free agency, they lost a ton of guys on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball as well. Adding the fact that they also lost a coordinator in Mike McDonald to the Seattle Seahawks this season, it truly begs the question of what can we expect this year from the Baltimore Ravens. And well, we're going to start on the offensive side of the ball to start this conversation, but Lamar Jackson, as we know, the guy looks as good as ever. After his MVP year, he has come into the preseason slimmed down, looking to go back to utilizing his speed on top of his newly found arm. This is exciting news for the Ravens too, and Lamar Jackson, who has literally a new running mate in the backfield with him. As we all know, Baltimore signed Titans legend Derrick Henry as he attempts to finally win a ring, arguably forming the best quarterback running back duo in the league.
They have a guy that, I mean, if they had a running back like this.
Jamal Lewis?
Jamal Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay, Jamal Lewis, they won a Super Bowl with. And Derrick Henry is going to be inspired. This is a team that made a run to try to get Derrick Henry last year before Tennessee wouldn't trade him to Baltimore.
Yeah.
Baltimore went after him again in free agency, brought him in, and now let's see what the combination of Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry can do.
One of the coolest.
On top of that, the Ravens receiving core is the best it's been in the Lamar era, with Zay Flowers ready to break out, Rashad Bateman and Nelson Aguilar offering useful veteran support, and Mark Andrews and Isaiah Likely forming a formidable tight end duo. Finally, the biggest offensive concern for me, honestly, is just their offensive line. Losing Morgan Moses, Kevin Zeitler, and John Simpson just stings for sure, but their replacements look pretty good. Andrew Voorhees was a top 3 guard in the 2023 draft before tearing his ACL and slipping into day 3, and he's fully healthy after a year of coaching and conditioning in the system. Roger Rosengarten was a steal in the 3rd round of this year's draft, to the point that he's challenging to be the day 1 starter already. The rest of the line is filled with Pro Bowl center Tyler Lindenbaum and All-Pro right tackle Ronnie Staley with a contested spot at right guard. Finally, offensive coordinator Todd Monken washed the stink of Greg Roman out of Baltimore, and they looked electric again in 2023. Monken didn't go anywhere, so overall it looks like the Ravens will be back to top form with a younger, healthier offense sooner rather than later. On the defensive side of the ball, the question's pretty simple, is can they survive without Mike McDonald as that defensive coordinator now? And so far, by the looks, it looks like the answer is yes. The Ravens defense under new defensive coordinator Zach Orr, a McDonald disciple, has been extremely solid in training camp, with younger guys like 2024 first rounder Nate Wiggins and linebacker Trent Simpson stepping up to fill the gaps along battle-tested veterans like Kyle Hamilton and Roquan Smith. Those two veterans are the key, the leaders of the best defensive unit in football last year, who should, alongside Orr, be able to replicate much of their past success. So what will the Ravens look like in 2024 is the big question now. And well, for me, I honestly see them getting to that peak win range of like 14 or 15 wins, pretty much able to replicate what they did last year in the NFL. Like, I mean, their roster and their scheme can beat anybody in football, and outside of Patrick Mahomes, they might have the 2nd best quarterback in the league. Somehow, I mean, the dude was ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes in the NFL top 100, even though I don't know how Patrick Mahomes wasn't number 1, but that's a whole different conversation. But nonetheless, Lamar Jackson is an amazing football player who is just as good as Patrick Mahomes, even though he doesn't have that playoff credibility yet. On their floor, though, there are cracks in this offensive and defensive unit for sure, but I mean, the only really big concern I have is that their schedule is absolutely grueling when we look at it, especially early, which could put them behind the 8 ball if they do start slow. And I mean, look, the division isn't getting any weaker, as we'll see in the rest of this video, but I put the floor of Baltimore at like 10 wins, regardless of the defending champs. They can expect to be in the mix at the end of the season, and at their best, they're still big-time Super Bowl contenders. Now to the comeback story though. The Cincinnati Bengals had a rough 2023, and some of that bad energy had affected their offseason. That being said, the rumors of their demise have been greatly exaggerated by the public. They moved on from an offensive coordinator who arguably shackled Joe Burrow when he was starting, and they upgraded in a lot of their key spots. They do have a couple of key concerns, which we'll get to, but it seems like if they stay healthy, the Bengals will be a superpower once again. Now, of course, we have to start with Joe Burrow because, I mean, the dude should probably be a favorite to win an MVP this season. I mean, to me, it looks like voter fatigue is maybe setting in on Mahomes and Lamar, and Burrow, when healthy, has been a superpower with his arm and pocket presence. With the arrival of first-round rookie Amarius Mims from Georgia, Burrow finally has the protection he needs to stay clean and healthy. Hey guys, post-edit K-Rich coming back to you guys right now. I did see that Amarius Mims just got injured actually, so he's going to be out for several weeks with a pectoral strain. So hopefully this won't affect Joe Burrow too much, but I just wanted to hop back in the video and say that I did see that. So hopefully he will recover soon, but once he does, that hopefully will help this offensive line protect Joe, and we'll kind of see what he can do this year. On top of that, the loss of Joe Mixon hasn't stood out at all thanks to the signing of Zach Moss, who showed amazing ability as a starter spot with the Colts last year. With him in front of speedster Chase Brown and rookie Trayvon Williams, the Bengals rushing attack seems more alive than ever. And then of course we get to the pass catchers, the absolute bread and butter of this revamped Bengals squad. Jamar Chase is about to absolutely break the bank to match his former LSU teammate over in Minnesota, and while T. Higgins might not be retained long term, he has at least one more year to try and get a ring in Cincy. And to add to that, we have Mike Gesicki at tight end, and the Bengals' odd ability to turn day 3 receivers into touchdown machines like Andre Avasavi and Trenton Irwin, and there isn't really a flaw in the Bengals offense. New offensive coordinator Dan Pitcher has been with the organization since their Super Bowl run as Burrow's quarterback coach and should help Joe get the most out of his talents. As for the defensive side of the ball, the Bengals may have the weakest defense inside of this tough division. But as crazy as it sounds, at the same time, they can also manage to be like a top 15 unit with this defensive unit that they have put together. I think a lot of people did forget this, but Trey Hendrickson did request a trade like T. Higgins, but hasn't shown signs of a true holdout, so he should be good to go, and most of their other impact players are sticking around. Logan Wilson, Sam Hubbard, and DJ Turner led the veterans, while young guys like Miles Murphy, Dax Hill, and Chris Jenkins try to prove themselves and contribute. They also signed Sheldon Rankins as a veteran D-line presence after he was electric with the Texans, and poached safety Geno Stone from the Ravens after he was a total ball hawk in Baltimore. And I mean, when we're taking a look at the ceiling and the floor for this Bengals team, honestly, it all rides on Joe Burrow and how good he's going to play. Like, I mean, the Jake Browning experience last year, that showed their true ceiling with a decent backup, if you want to call him that. But if they want another real run at a Super Bowl, then they have one mission: keep Joe Burrow healthy. And I mean, honestly, if he does stay healthy, then the following should happen, is that they should at least have a ceiling, if not higher, of like 12 or 13 wins. Like, that's how good this team should be if Joe Burrow can stay healthy. They do have the worst record against their own division of teams we're looking at today, and their schedule is no joke, with opponents like the Eagles, Chargers, and Chiefs all coming before their bye week. Because of those concerns and lingering questions about Joe Burrow's durability, their floor this year is a carbon copy of last season, 9-8. For me, honestly, I do see, again, if the Bengals can stay healthy, they're going to achieve that ceiling more likely than not, and honestly probably surpass that win total if they can. But again, it all comes down to Joe Burrow and can they keep him healthy? Because if they can, then they will be legit threats in the AFC North this year. Are you looking for a new book this football season? BetUS is the answer. They have the fastest and easiest payouts in the industry, along with 24/7 personalized service 365 days a year. Not only that, but they have live wagering on all major games, so if you see something mid-game and want to make a wager on it, you can. And the best part is you get 10% back on your net losses twice a year. And now look, you guys know I had to come through for you, so use my sign up link in the description or pinned comment and get a sign up bonus of 125% up to $2,000. Again, thank you to BetUS for sponsoring today's video, but for now, let's hop back into it. Now, as we move on to the Cleveland Browns, they have the exact problem to that of the two teams I've ranked ahead of them. We know their defense is going to be good. We don't have any coaching questions, and their offensive line is far and away the best in the AFC North. But under center, they have one of the biggest question marks in the entire league. So let's find out why the Browns, I personally do think, have the widest range of outcomes.
Cleveland has as good a roster as anybody in that conference. Maybe Houston and Kansas City have better. Cleveland has a defensive line that has a defensive player of the year and a dude opposite him in Za'Darius that is unreal. They have good young linebackers. They have a secondary that can go with anybody in ball. They had the #1 defense in football last year. They have a coach that is a 2-time coach of the year. There hasn't been that many humans on the planet that have done that. They still have an offensive line that is top 5 in ball.
Offensively, all the Browns needed to do is be average. Unfortunately, in 2023, we saw the early loss of Deshaun Watson to injury, giving way to a long line of backups and emergency signings. I mean, even before that injury though, Watson was far from his 2019 self. The Browns did get lucky though, and Joe Flacco had one more legacy run in him to get them to the playoffs, but now Flacco is backing up Anthony Richardson in Indianapolis. There aren't many things I can say that are great about the Browns quarterback situations, but the things that I can say are that A, Deshaun Watson is fully healthy entering the year, and that B, they have signed a pair of capable backups in case he sucks again or does get hurt, and my legend, my man, Jameis Winston and Tyler Huntley. Like again, all the Browns need is literally they just need average quarterback play to make their slew of weapons that they do have on the offensive side of the ball work pretty much. In terms of those weapons too, it's surprising to say this, but it does look like Nick Chubb is coming back sooner than expected from that grueling knee injury he did have last year. But while he is still recovering from his horrible injury last fall, Cleveland has a stable core of Jerome Ford and Donta Freeman ready to work for weeks 1. To open opportunities for all of those running backs is a very talented offensive line, led by Joel Bitonio, Wyatt Teller, and Ethan Pocket. As for receivers, it does seem like the Browns are out of the running for Brandon Ayuk, since we're still all just waiting to see what does happen with this dude, as we all just want to kind of just see him get signed at this point. But even with the core that they still do have, it still is pretty interesting to see what they can work with here. Led by Amari Cooper, Cleveland traded for Jerry Jeudy to complement Elijah Moore and last year's rookie breakout Cedric Tillman. On top of that, they also have one of the most underrated tight ends in football and fantasy football, for a matter of fact, in David Njoku. Like, this dude is a true warrior. I mean, he missed barely any time last year after getting severely burned in a bonfire accident. And I mean, top to bottom, if they had stability at quarterback, the Browns might have one of the best offenses in the AFC North. But as we flip to the defensive side of the ball, now that Aaron Donald has retired, I think it's safe to say that Myles Garrett is definitively the best defensive lineman in the NFL right now. And because of the way he needs to be covered, usually by 2 linemen, if not more, a lot of his supporting cast gets to punish opposing quarterbacks. Za'Darius Smith returned to fortify the defense along with Shelby Harris and Dalvin Tomlinson. The linebacking group is led by JOK, who is about to get top of the market money for his leadership, while Jordan Hicks and Devin Bush were brought in as free agents to help him out. And then we get to move to my favorite part of this defensive unit, which is the secondary, which I think bar none is the best secondary in the AFC North. Denzel Ward, Grant Delpit, and Juan Thornhill headline a group that conceded the second fewest passing yards in 2023. Top to bottom, the Browns have all the makings of a playoff team. Their defense is terrifying, and their weapons can make the corpse of Joe Flacco look like a Hall of Famer. Because of this, if Cleveland can get just slightly above average play from their $230 million quarterback, their ceiling is, as crazy as it sounds, like 12 wins, the same as the Bengals. However, there is a very real possibility that Watson is just completely washed. Add in the unknown that Chubb's form after his injury is still uncertain, and the fact that Jeudy is a bit of a gamble as a wide receiver too, and I'm gonna give the fact that makes the Browns floor total like 7. Unsurprisingly now though, we have what I think is the football's weakest team inside of the AFC North, with that being of the Pittsburgh Steelers, who don't really even know who their starting quarterback is at this moment from all what we've seen in training camp. We kind of can assume it's going to be Russ, but there's still a toss-up that somehow maybe the running back that's a quarterback in Justin Fields might actually get a start. Like, why are people still thinking this guy is good at quarterback? Just make him a running back. But as we go back to last year, the Pittsburgh Steelers realized that Kenny Pickett wasn't the successor to Big Ben that they had hoped for, so they traded him and signed Russell Wilson for the vet min. And then, not even totally confident in him for the long term, or just maybe trying to light a fire under his ass, they traded for former first rounder Justin Fields, who has also shown flashes with the Chicago Bears, but as I said, never truly developed into a quarterback. Both quarterbacks have gotten first team reps in training camp thanks to an injury to Russ, but while the Steelers are adamant that Wilson is their starter for week 1, we all know that the season could see both get real time under center.
Because when Russell Wilson was practicing, he didn't separate himself enough. He didn't show Mike Tomlin and that coaching staff that I'm the unquestioned starter on this team. Because if he had, Mike Tomlin would say, there's no quarterback competition. Russell Wilson is our starter. Simple.
So with that massive question at the most important position in football, how much can the rest of this Pittsburgh roster really elevate their quarterbacks? On offense, we have to start with the elephant in the room. And as of making this video right now, all the talk is that if the Steelers are going to be trading for 49ers wide receiver Brandon Ayuk. And if that does work out, Ayuk is a game changer who would fill the same role that DJ Moore did for Fields last year as a safety valve. As for existing pieces, the Steelers have done it again, developing George Pickens into a game-breaking threat and Calvin Austin into a very useful supporting piece. Pat Freiermuth is also a cheat code at tight end, and Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are both dangerous running backs, with Warren leading the league last year in missed tackles forced per attempt. And although people will argue who the true running back is in Pittsburgh, they've bolstered the offensive line, which should allow for both Najee and Jalen to thrive. They've gone all out. They drafted a left tackle and they added Zach Frazier at center in 2024, building on last year's first-round additions of Broderick Jones. Just like the Browns, the Steelers' defense can largely be defined as one superstar in his legion of weapons. TJ Watt is coming off another snub or near snub for Defensive Player of the Year and has a lot to prove. If he's able to stay healthy, he'll be right back to one of the meanest players in football, who's arguably getting more effective at getting to the quarterback than Myles Garrett is. For Watt's supporting staff, he still has Cameron Hayward, Alex Highsmith, and Minkah Fitzpatrick, one of the best all-around safeties in football. The team also benefits from the arrival of linebacker Patrick Queen, who betrayed the Ravens and signed with their division rival. And considering the fact that the Steelers do still have Mike Tomlin as their head coach, I'm going to break the cardinal rule here, and I'm going to say that their floor is not going to be a winning record, even though he has never not had a winning record. And before you all jump at me saying, well, he's never had a losing record while he's been a Steelers head coach, that's true, but he's also never had this amount of uncertainty on a Steelers roster also. Even when they did have Kenny Pickett at quarterback, as crazy as it sounds, they still knew who their quarterback was going to be for the season. And unless Russ is just going to go back to his prime form and have a one-off year of just having great stats and do something for the Steelers that they haven't had since Big Ben, then the whole headlines or all of the headlines this year are going to be, is Fields going to get a start and when? We saw the same thing happen when Mitchell Trubisky was the starter for the Steelers and everybody was begging for Kenny Pickett to start. And then we got to Kenny Pickett and then it was like, wow, let's get rid of Kenny Pickett. And it could be the same thing for Russell Wilson, is we're going to get to Russell Wilson throwing a bunch of interceptions. They're going to beg for Justin Fields to start. And then everybody's going to say, oh, it's the play calling that's the problem for Justin Fields. When it's not. The dude just can't throw the ball. Quit trying to make him a quarterback. Honestly, if they sit Russell Wilson at any point in this season to put Justin Fields in, the offense may be at the worst it's been in the past 10 years. Now, with that being said, the Steelers may win as few as 6 games this year, I think, the lowest floor in the AFC North. That being said, though, Mike Tomlin somehow does have some magic up his sleeve, always somehow. And there's a real chance that these variables work together somehow to make something of it. The defensive unit clicking would have to come first, but if Russ or Justin Fields work out at quarterback somehow and they figure it out quickly, they have the offensive personnel to be a real threat to good teams, especially if they can add Ayuk too. Because of these possibilities in the winning aurora of Mike Tomlin, the ceiling in Pittsburgh is 10 wins and another trip to the playoffs. Despite all that, though, every single team in the AFC North this year is going through changes, but the one thing that will always remain the same is that they love kicking the tar out of each other. I would be stunned if any team loses fewer than 2 divisional games in the regular season, because the AFC North is just going to be an absolute bloodbath in 2024. But I want to know what you guys think. Who do you think will win this division? Give me your predictions down below, and hell, if you want to, give me each team's record prediction. I'll also be posting this on my community tab too to see who we think will win this division. I'm gonna try and go through every division before the season starts, but we got football in less than a month, guys, so it's gonna have to be banged out pretty soon. So let me know what division you guys want to see next. Also, if you have not, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you made it this far in the video. Comment W down in the bottom if you made it this far in the video also. I appreciate you guys, and make sure that if you guys have not, join my giveaway that I'm doing on Twitter. I'm giving away a Jordan Love helmet for absolutely free. All you have to do is just like, repost, and if you want to, comment on there to get an extra entry. And as always, I will catch you guys in the next one.